I never imagined disgrace could arrive dressed in satin and sparkling wine. There I sat, third row at my little sister's wedding reception, squeezed into my single formal gown, desperately trying to disappear among guests who all appeared impossibly refined and flawless. My son Mark fidgeted next to me, his small legs kicking beneath the table, dressed in a miniature suit that had cost me 4 weeks' wages. His face shone with such naive pride. He truly believed this occasion would reunite us with the family. Perhaps some foolish part of me had hoped the same. Sophia, my sister, glided through the celebrations like a Hollywood starlet. That effortless grace always came naturally to her, radiant, enchanting. The darling of every guest, particularly our mothers, she received endless praise. I endured constant comparisons. She basked in attention. I mastered invisibility, yet I came. I forced smiles. I applauded the newlyweds' kiss. I maintained composure when acquaintances remarked, "You're the elder sister? You don't seem old enough to have a 7-year-old." Then the toasts began. The best man spoke first. A few lukewarm jokes, polite chuckles. Then Sophia took center stage. I braced for heartfelt words, perhaps about romance, maybe childhood memories. I even raised my champagne flute expectantly. What a fool I was. She lifted her glittering glass and beamed at the assembled crowd. "I want to thank you all for being here today," she began, radiant. "Having you here means everything to me. And of course," she paused dramatically, "I have to say something special about my big sister, Anna." I turned to Mark and forced a smile. His eyes sparkled with anticipation. For one fleeting second, I let myself believe she might say something kind. Sophia continued, "Anna's always been such an inspiration to me. A single mother, so strong, so independent." She flashed her perfect smile. "And clearly not wanted by anyone else." The banquet hall exploded with laughter. My stomach lurched violently. I must have misunderstood, but she kept beaming, as if she'd just delivered the wittiest remark. Some guests exchanged confused glances, but most roared louder, tapping their glasses in approval. My vision blurred. Blood thundered in my temples. Mark tugged my sleeve urgently. "Mama, why did Aunt Sophie say that?" he whispered. Before I could respond, our mother's voice cut through the noise from the head table. "She's second-hand goods, but I'll admit, she's aged better than expected." The renewed laughter felt like shards of glass. That particular cruel laughter that transforms you from person to punchline, from family member to pathetic spectacle. My limbs turned to stone. The air turned to cement in my lungs. My cheeks blazed, but I wouldn't let a single tear escape. Not with my son watching, not for their entertainment. Beneath the tablecloth, my hands strangled the linen napkin like it was the last thread keeping me anchored. I scanned the sea of faces desperately. Just one person, just one sympathetic glance. Grandpa studied his steak like it held life's answers. My cousin stifled a laugh behind her phone screen. Even Uncle James, the one who'd always said I had Dad's eyes, wouldn't meet my gaze. Mark's small face crumpled in confusion, his tiny fingers clutching my sleeve. That shattered me. Not their cruel jokes, not the echoing laughter. My baby boy witnessing this, trying to comprehend why everyone laughed at his mom, the woman who kissed his nightmares away and burned midnight oil helping him sound out words. Every muscle screamed to flee, to snatch Mark's hand and vanish forever. Yet something rooted me to the chair. My throat ached with unspoken words, the battles they never saw, the weight they'd never carried. But my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. My knees knocked violently beneath the table. Then, a screech of wood on marble. Christopher, the golden boy groom, Sophia's picture-perfect fiance. He rose deliberately. no trace of amusement. Didn't glance at Sophia. Didn't acknowledge the crowd. His gaze locked solely on me, and whatever flickered across his face turned the room to ice. In that frozen moment, I understood. This wasn't intervention, but revelation. People assume older siblings blaze trails, command respect. In our family, I was the cautionary tale. I'm Anna, 33 years old, single mother, family disappointment. My world exists in a cramped 2-bedroom on the city's outskirts with my 7-year-old superhero, Mark. He's the reason I endure rooms designed to shrink me. My days split between dawn shifts at Joe's Diner and graveyard hours manning the Sleepy Hollow Inn's reception desk. No glamour, no pretending, just Saturday morning pancake doing and stitching dinosaur patches over torn knees. Mark thinks I hang the moon. That's my compass. But to the Carlyle, I'm the failure who couldn't keep a man. Mother, never. Mom, always Margaret, polishes this narrative at every gathering. Exactly, Sophia needed rehabilitation. Hence, Sophia's cathedral wedding with its monogrammed napkins and imported peonies. Sophia is years my junior. Gorgeous, accomplished, born with a silver spoon that she's polished to a blinding shine. The favorite. Mother worships her. If Sophia sniffled, she'd get chicken soup served in Grandma's china. When I came down with pneumonia at 16, stop being theatrical and take an aspirin. Everything shifted when I got pregnant with Mark at 24. Head over heels for a man who promised me forever. By the 6th month, he disappeared without a trace. No goodbye, no forwarding address, just empty drawers and emptier promises. My family? Not a single, "Are you okay?" Just pursed lips and muttered, "We warned you." But then Mark arrived. The moment they placed him in my arms, their cutting remarks dissolved into static. Yet some stubborn part of me still hoped they'd see past the single mom label. Maybe that's why I RSVP'd yes to Sophia wedding, even though I wasn't in the bridal party. They misspelled my name. I had to budget $400 for a rented dress. While doing my makeup in front of the mirror, Mark practiced tying his tiny dress shoes. The country club sparkled. Peonies on every table, platinum-rimmed champagne flutes, a violin ensemble playing Vivaldi. Sophia floated through the crowd like she'd stepped off a bridal catalog cover, glowing under the attention. Her smile flickered when she spotted us. "You came," she said, like I'd crashed the event. Her eyes dropped to Mark. "You've grown up." No embrace, no affection, just stiff pleasantries before she floated back to her admirers. Mother looked straight through me as if I were part of the catering staff. But Mark was spellbound. He thought the crystal chandeliers were alien spacecraft. "Aunt Sophia looks like Cinderella," he breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. Seeing his joy, I swallowed the bitter taste of exclusion and stayed, even as that old loneliness curled around my ribs like smoke. Our assigned seats, table 12, the one wedged between the kitchen doors and the restrooms. We picked at our salads. I dabbed chocolate mousse from Mark's clip-on tie with a napkin dipped in sparkling water. I kept my gaze fixed on my plate whenever Mother passed by, pretending not to hear my name ripple through the clatter of silverware. Then the toast began, and I understood. This wasn't about reconciliation. This was Sophia's spotlight. And I was the A victim. It opened as wedding speeches do, honeyed, polished, faintly insincere. Sophia rose like a vision, her manicured fingers curled around a champagne flute. The sequins on her gown scattered light like prisms. 200 guests held their breath. Sophia paused, letting the silence draw out just enough. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice dripping with honey. "This is truly the happiest day of my life. surrounded by everyone who matters most. From my exile at table 12, I tried to believe I was part of that words. Mark swung his legs beside me, utterly captivated by the fairy tale spectacle. She gushed about Christopher, her new husband, about destiny, perfect timing, and once-in-a-lifetime love. I exhaled. Maybe this wouldn't turn ugly after all. Then her tone shifted. And of course, she added with a glittering smile, I have to acknowledge my big sister, Anna. The spotlight swung my way. I straightened my spine, forced a smile. Sophia's voice turned razor sharp beneath its sweetness. She's always been so resilient, raising a child completely alone. No husband, no help, just her and, well, whatever neighbor could spare hour. The crowd tittered. My fingers dug into the tablecloth. But honestly, she continued, it's inspiring. A single mother, unwanted, yet still here. The room erupted. Not polite chuckles, roaring laughter that shook the crystal stemware. The air rushed from my lungs. My face burned. My hands locked around the crumpled napkin in my lap. I looked at Mark. His small forehead wrinkled in confusion as he scanned the room, trying to understand why everyone was laughing at his mother. Then came the knife twist. Mother, Margaret, threw back her head and laughed harder than anyone. She's like last season's handbag, she announced to her table, voice carrying perfectly. Slightly worn but still presentable. Another explosion of laughter, raw and unapologetic in its meanness. The room swam before me. It wasn't a slap. It was a public stoning where everyone brought their own stone. They laughed like it was normal, like it was acceptable to ridicule a woman who'd worked 80-hour weeks for 8 years to give her son stability and love. Like my worth could be measured by my relationship status. Mark's excited grin had disappeared. He pressed against me, his whisper trembling. Mama, why is Grandma being mean? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. I couldn't shield him, couldn't sugarcoat this cruelty. The realization hit like ice water. He was seeing the truth I'd tried to hide for so long. My pulse pounded in my throat. I searched the sea of grinning faces for an ally, for one person who might say, stop. The exit seemed miles away, but no one moved. A few guests shifted uncomfortably, but their voices stayed silent. They studied their wine glasses, their half-eaten desserts, their phone screens with sudden intensity. Even Grandpa James, who'd called me his little warrior when I skinned my knees as a child, wouldn't meet my eyes. Physically present, but emotionally no. I was alone. Again. Here's the truth. I could have endured this humiliation if it were just me. After 8 years of swallowing their cruelty, I knew the drill. I could have forced a smile, taken Mark's hand, and walked out with feigned dignity. But seeing my son's bewildered expression, watching him try to reconcile the cheerful toasts with this sudden mockery, shattered something inside me. I stood up, not to make a speech, not to cause drama, simply because the walls were closing in. I needed oxygen that wasn't laced with their contempt. My chair screeched as I pushed back, my fingers shaking. Then, another scrape of wood on marble. Christopher, the groom, rising from the head table. His face had gone ashen. A muscle twitched in his clenched jaw. He took the microphone from Sophia without a word. The room froze. The air turned arctic. All laughter died mid-breath. Every whisper evaporated. A silence so complete it hummed. I realized instantly this wasn't scripted. Christopher stood gripping the microphone, one hand braced against the table. His gaze never left me, not from Sophia, not Margaret, not the snickering guests. Just me. For a heartbeat, I expected him to crack a joke, to perform the usual family dance of smoothing things over with charm. That's how my family used to act. Sweep it under the rug, rebrand cruelty as teasing, call it our special tradition. But Christopher didn't smile, didn't laugh. His expression darkened with something complex. Anger, yes, but beneath it, something heavier. Disappointment, disgust. I grabbed Mark's small hand, preparing to exit with whatever dignity remained. I'd perfected this retreat, head high, tears unshed. I'd done it at Christmas when Margaret joked about my thrift store coat, at Thanksgiving when Sophia accidentally served my ex's favorite dessert. But as I turned, Christopher's voice cut through the murmurs, steady, quiet, undeniable. "Anna, stay." The room froze. Every head swiveled toward him. Whispers rustled through the crowd like wind through dead grass. Sophia froze. Margaret's eyes turned to slits. The DJ's hand hovered over the soundboard, but dropped when Christopher raised his palm. He kept his focus locked on me. "I won't pretend this was acceptable," he said, voice cutting through the silence. That wasn't humor. It was humiliation. The air grew thick. Christopher moved from behind the head table with slow, measured steps. Each one seemed to cost him effort, as if fighting against the room's collective tension. He stopped by our table, me, Mark, the abandoned salads congealing on china plates, and addressed the crowd. For 12 months, I've heard endless speeches about family values, he said, about legacy, about unity. What just happened? That wasn't family. That was bullying in black tie. Guests fidgeted. Some shot nervous looks at Margaret. Others became intensely interested in their champagne flutes. Christopher turned to Sophia. "You ridiculed your sister for parenting alone, for raising a child without anyone's help." His voice dropped. "You made your nephew witness it." Sophia's lips parted, but no words emerged. Christopher didn't pause. "She didn't choose this path," he continued, "but she walked it. She came today. She sat where you placed her, in the shadows." For the first time in years, I wasn't the one left shattered. When Christopher strode out of the ballroom, the atmosphere shifted instantly. No applause, no cheers, just the mechanical whir of the AC and the solitary clink of silverware against crystal. The guests sat paralyzed, eyes flicking between me, Sophia, and the doors Christopher had vanished through. Sophia remained at the head table, her perfect composure fractured. Her shoulders slumped as reality settled in. She searched the room, but the smiles had vanished. Some faces registered shock, others discomfort. A few glared at her with unmistakable disapproval. Margaret broke the silence first. Her chair shrieked against the marble as she stood. "That ungrateful man," she hissed, "humiliating you like this, just like your sister, always thinking only of themselves." But her usual commanding tone fell flat. The spell she'd cast over every family gathering had broken. I stayed quiet. No rebuttal needed. For once, her words didn't make me want to disappear. I looked down at Mark. His small face was clouded with confusion. "Are we going?" Mark whispered, his small fingers tightening around mine. "Yes, sweetheart," I murmured, smoothing his hair. "We're going home." I straightened my spine as we walked toward the exit. The crowd seemed to ripple apart before us. Some guests stared at their shoes. Others opened their mouths, then closed them silently. We were nearly at the doors when a voice cracked through the silence. "Anna." I turned. Grandpa James stood there, pale, his eyes glassy. He took an unsteady step forward. "I'm sorry," he rasped. I should have spoken up long ago." I nodded, my throat too tight for words. I didn't blame him. After 33 years in this family, I knew exactly how much courage words required, but understanding didn't mean I'd keep bearing their shame. The night air hit us like a blessing, clean and sharp. Noah swung our clasped hands. "Did the wedding finish?" he asked. I looked down at his trusting face. "Yes, baby," I said, and meant it. "It's over." The ending felt strangely right. We drove home quietly, the only sounds being the tires on pavement and Mark absent-minded drumming on the car door. That night, I kissed his forehead at bedtime and lingered in his doorway longer than normal. He didn't ask about what happened. Somehow, he understood. Morning brought 32 missed calls, unknown numbers, second cousins, even wedding guests I'd only met once. I silenced my phone. Then a text came through from Sarah, a friend who'd been there. "Someone filmed Christopher's speech. It's gone viral. 100,000 plus views. Check the comments. The world's on your side." I tapped play. There was Christopher's steady voice challenging an entire ballroom. There I stood, captured mid-frame, gripping Mark's small hand. The comments flooded in. "Real men call out bullies. Every single mother just felt seen." I'm literally sobbing at work. I didn't cry, didn't smile, just felt quiet, like a fist inside me had unclenched after decades. Anna spent days damage controlling. Christopher misunderstood. It was just playful teasing. People are too politically correct. But the truth had wings now. No one was buying her excuses. Then, on Thursday, a simple bouquet of daisies and Queen Anne's lace appeared at my apartment door. No note accompanied them, just a small card reading, "For the warrior." I knew exactly who'd sent them. The wedding never happened, but something far more significant did. For the first time, the shame wasn't mine to bear. The apologies weren't mine to make. I'd walked out of that ballroom with 3 things: my son, my self-respect, and my chin held high. And somewhere, a man had reminded a room full of people, perhaps even the entire internet, what true strength looked like. Half a year has passed since the non-wedding. Sophia and Christopher quietly ended their engagement. No press release, no viral post, just the silent deletion of what should have been their perfect day. Sophia slipped back into her social circles as if nothing occurred. All traces of that evening vanished from her profiles. She never contacted me. Not that I expected her to. Margaret phoned once, not to apologize, but to accuse me of ruining family unity by refusing to play along. I let her speak for 29 seconds before saying words I'd never dreamed I'd utter. "I'm not your punching bag anymore." Then I ended the call. No rage, no theatrics. Everything was clean, simple and final. After everything, I realized I didn't need my family's grand apology. Didn't need them to magically transform or finally acknowledge my worth. I just needed to stop seeking their validation to recognize it myself. My daily life didn't change overnight. I still pull double shifts, still make separate dinners when Mark demands waffles while I crave vegetables. But I move through the world differently now, no longer weighed down by invisible shame, no more shrinking into shadows. Mark's different too. He asks sharper questions these days, wonders why some people choose cruelty while others find courage. He talks about Christopher like he's some comic book superhero. Sometimes I catch him staging elaborate speeches with his action figures, defending the underdog. Watching him, I know with absolute certainty that night imprinted something profound in him. It's shaping the man he'll become, kind but firm, brave enough to speak truth. One evening, as we were getting ready for bed, Mark looked at me. "Mom," he asked, "do Aunt Sophia's words still hurt you?" I thought about it and said, "Not anymore." "Why not?" He wiped his chin, thoughtful. "Because you won without even fighting." That stuck with me, because he was right. I never raised my voice, never traded insults, never begged for fairness or made a spectacle of my pain. I just rose, took my son's hand, and left. And someone surprising decided silence wasn't acceptable anymore. Christopher didn't just defend me. He showed that entire room what real love means. Not the fancy champagne flute kind, the kind that sees pain and declares, enough. Here's what matters. Being single doesn't mean being unworthy. Kindness isn't weakness. Dignity, once reclaimed, stays yours forever. No, I didn't dance at Sophia's wedding, didn't give speeches or catch bouquets. But I gained something far more valuable. Walking out with Mark beside me, knowing I'll never again beg for approval. That's the unexpected ending, the one I earned.